There's no other way to say this, but Ruth Bader Ginsburg, among the longest-serving elder Supreme Court justices, has, as I feared but did not hope, succumbed to the incredibly lethal form of cancer she revealed she was once again afflicted with in late July. In fact, it appears she suffered roughly the same fate as the late David Bowie, appearing to be past pancreatic cancer with a tentative announcement of her remission, only for it to flare up once more and sadly claim her life, begging the question in the process of how a disease humanity's suffered since literally our inception has still somehow not yet been cured, let alone can be treated in a way that doesn't involve firing nuclear hot fucking jizz into your circulatory system. And before we move on, we cannot skitter fuck on past the fact that Ruth Bader Ginsburg, as a matter of public record, blatantly lied about her condition's reemergence in order to remain on the bench in May and early July, receiving radiation treatment as early as May, while repeatedly and publicly professing she was merely being hospitalized for a possible infection. And what the fuck about that fall last year? And the same media that's not telling you about this in the wake of her passing didn't tell you about it the first fucking time either. And unsurprisingly, the most repulsive exploitation of Ruth Bader Ginsburg's death came from Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who reputedly penned a Vladimir Lenin-style deathbed confession begging she not be replaced until after the election Democrats doubtless intend to fucking fix. For a window into the soul of a woman who refused to resign despite suffering a form of cancer with a sub 15% survival rate, look no fucking further, folks. John McCain, I'm looking at you. The calls for delay until after the election were as immediate as they were nonsensical, with the left already pointing to the GOP's refusal to confirm Obama's shitty justice in 2016 until after the election, as if it was somehow proof of hypocrisy. If they wanted to avoid the confirmation being made political, why then shouldn't we now? The problem, of course, well, putting aside that Ruth herself previously argued for the confirmation of justices in an election year, in 16 the GOP asked to wait until after the election to appoint a successor. Ginsburg didn't ask to wait until after the election. She asked to wait until after inauguration, hoping Biden wins. And I quote, "until a new president is installed." Even if this statement is legit, she didn't want to prevent her death being politicized. She wanted it politicized her way. But sure, Amelia Bedelia, let's wait until after the election so both candidates can make who they'll replace you with a centerpiece of their fucking campaigns instead. That'll make the process much less political. Sorry, Ruthie, my heart and prayers go out to your family, even the transparent shitheels who dropped this divisive political statement amid an already contentious, not to mention violent election cycle for transparently partisan reasons, but you must be replaced, and promptly. Look, folks, in a contentious election season, it'll be political either way. But any rational person can see it'll be 50 times the fucking shit show if we wait until after Election Day so both candidates can spend the next 2 months dividing us even further by making your replacement a line item on their respective election agendas. And far from the drooling Pavlovian reception expected from the right, it was actually the leftists who shit on her grave, damning a dead woman for failing to resign during the Obama administration, all while calling for Mitch McConnell's outright assassination. All of which is well afield of the fucking point. As I said in my stench from the bench rant, and reiterated in a video entitled Supreme Corpse, for all her armchair activism, we do not have a Sotomayor or Ginsburg problem. We have a Supreme Court problem. By their merest reaction, the left are outright conceding the conservative talking point, one that was parroted for 70 plus years, that the Supreme Court has devolved into an Algonquin of activism, devoted to the generation of laws, not the application of them. One the left have vocally denied for the self-same period of time, with liberal deployment of the term conspiracy theorist in the interim. Yet in a single evening, with a single death, the mask was off, and they all admitted they'd spent 7 decades transmogrifying an ostensibly objective entity of arbitration into an auto-legislative perversion, insulated from electoral will and accountable to precisely fucking no one. This is not an ideological dispute, folks. This is a problem of the tempting properties of unchecked power, which the Supreme Court absolutely is. If you doubt a single word I've said here today, consider that the only time a Supreme Court justice was ever impeached in American history was when the founding fathers still drew breath, an indication that they clearly understood they perma-fucked the structural makeup of the Supreme Court by failing to sufficiently check their powers, likely assuming future generations would unfuck it via constitutional amendment, which we absolutely fucking didn't. And it's not an issue with the Supreme Court not being elected, folks. If you believe subjecting the court to electoral processes would poison them politically, fucking fine. I'll roll with that. It's not an issue of them being unelected. It's an issue of them being unaccountable. In theory, the Senate can censure and remove a sitting justice if they decide to be activists. In practice, it's happened precisely once, and he didn't even lose his goddamn job. The problem is with the mechanism for oversight, namely, that there fucking isn't one. The Senate could impeach a justice anytime impropriety arises. The Senate could also pass a balanced budget for once, or stay in session more than 7 days a fucking year, or dissolve the FBI as the temporary agency erected to chase down Al Capone. The Senate could do a lot of things, folks, but when political consequences are attached to that action, such as with the censure of a Supreme Court justice, they tend to find new and inventive ways to dodge a political football, which is exactly what they've done for over 150 fucking years. There could be myriad solutions here. Maybe allowing states to vote whether to actually recognize a Supreme Court decision and not having to if a majority decide they won't, or presidential removal maybe, or merely expediting the Senate's impeachment proceedings, or making them less political. Whatever your particular antidote, one thing's for fucking certain: the time to do it is now. I have made this entreaty before, but I make it again, this time from the fucking diaphragm. The left will never be more sympathetic to neutering the thus far unchecked, unaccountable, tyrannical powers of the Supreme Court than they are at this precise moment. And so I will say this just once, so you can all go right on back to ignoring me. Tuck your shit-eating grin away in your vest pocket, swallow your schadenfreude, and accommodate them. In the short term, sure, you might not check as many items off your conservative Christmas list, but in the longer term, you might save us all from another unfundable, vote-buying, butt-fucking nightmare like the ones that allowed arsonists and Marxists to emerge as the power they presently are, all without getting anyone at all elected in the process. Nightmares with names like Social Security or Obamacare or income fucking tax. And to the quasi-conservatives who think stacking the court is all we need concern ourselves with, twisting the knife, even if it presently resides between our fucking shoulder blades, and any other approach somehow represents a negotiation with the left. Understand this, ass canyon. This is not capitulation. This is circumspection. Stack the court all you like, you cunt. You have to fill the vacancy anyway, and you absolutely should stack it with conservatives. But stacking the court is winning the battle. Neutering the court is winning the war. Ask Germany which of those two is more easily fucking reversed. I'm Razor Fist. God fucking speed.
Now, back in 1992, in the aftermath of a bruising and polarizing confirmation process involving Clarence Thomas, who'd been nominated by President Bush with no consultation just 4 days after the great Thurgood Marshall had retired, I took to the Senate floor to speak about the Supreme Court nominating process. Senate Majority Leader, and he's my friend, Mitch McConnell, and other Republicans today have been quoting selectively from the remarks that I made in an attempt to justify refusing Chief Judge Garland a fair hearing and a vote on the floor of the Senate. They completely ignore the fact that at the time, I was speaking of the dangers of nominating an extreme candidate without proper Senate consultation. They completely neglected to quote my unequivocal bottom line. So let me set the record straight, as they say. I said, and I quote, if the president consults and cooperates with the Senate or moderates his selections, then his nominees may enjoy my support, as did Justice Kennedy and Justice Souter. End of quote. I made it absolutely clear that I would go forward with the confirmation process as chairman, even a few months before a presidential election, if the nominee were chosen with the advice and not merely the consent of the Senate, just as the Constitution requires. My consistent advice to presidents of both parties, including this president, has been that we should engage fully in the constitutional process of advice and consent. And my consistent understanding of the Constitution has been the Senate must do so as well, period. They have an obligation to do so.